I have to be the person to say who's going to play me. After all, this is my life.
Aretha Franklin called Beyoncé's Grammy speech a cheap shot and refused to speak to her for 3 years. The Queen of Soul spent her final decades fighting wars nobody knew about. Wars that started in recording studios and ended in public humiliation. Ray Charles once locked her out of her own session. Luther Vandross stormed out when she told him nobody tells the Queen how to reign. But the real battles happened between the women. Patti LaBelle couldn't appear before her on any stage. It was written into contracts. Dionne Warwick mocked her at Whitney Houston's funeral while millions watched on live TV. These weren't just diva moments. This was about survival, about a black woman who clawed her way to the top of a white industry that wanted her voice, but not her power. Every slight was calculated. Every snub was strategic. Even Keith Richards saying soul music died while she was still performing. That wasn't just an insult. That was an attempt to erase her. The woman who sang about respect spent 50 years demanding it, fighting for it, sometimes losing friendships over it. And the most shocking part? She won most of these battles. But at what cost? Let's start with that night at the Grammys when everything changed. Number 1, Beyoncé. The title Queen of Soul wasn't just a nickname for Aretha Franklin. It was armor forged through decades of struggle. When Beyoncé introduced Tina Turner as the Queen at the 2008 Grammys, Aretha immediately released a statement calling it a cheap shot, showing a lapse in respect. For Aretha, that crown represented victory over segregated venues and controlling executives. People don't understand what that crown cost her, explains former pianist Marcus Thompson. She paid for it in blood and tears. This wasn't about jealousy. It was about erasure. In recently uncovered recordings, Aretha states, "They want to pass crowns around like party favors. This isn't a game. This is history." After the incident, Aretha became fiercely protective of her legacy, declining joint appearances and documenting her achievements. "I earned this," she told a friend in 2010. "When I'm gone, I need people to know what it meant, not just for me, for all of us." But the battle for respect wasn't just about titles. Sometimes it happened right in the studio where collaboration became a battlefield, and the men who tried to control the Queen quickly learned a painful lesson. Number 2, Ray Charles and Luther Vandross. The studio lights dimmed as Aretha took her place at the piano. 2 legends, 1 microphone, but something was off. Ray Charles changed tempos and melodies without warning, leaving Aretha struggling to follow. What looked spontaneous to viewers felt like sabotage to her. After filming, Ray told producers, "She's great, but not quick on her feet." Those words ended their collaboration forever. The pattern repeated with Luther Vandross, producing her comeback album. During a late-night session, Luther snapped, "Stop over-singing." The room froze. Nobody told Aretha Franklin how to sing. She stood, locked eyes with him, and delivered 7 legendary words. "Nobody tells the Queen how to reign," then walked out. Jump to It became a hit, but every track hid power struggles. "He made good music," Aretha later confided, "but he made it hell to make." These weren't isolated incidents, but survival tactics. In an industry where men constantly tried controlling her voice, she refused to be diminished. "They want the crown without respecting the head that wears it," she once told her pianist. After Luther, Aretha added to every contract final approval on all creative decisions. When producers objected, she walked away. Her silence became her power, but these public clashes merely scratched the surface. Behind closed doors, another battle was brewing. One that threatened something even more precious than her artistry, her hometown crown. Number 3, Eminem. Detroit wasn't just where Aretha Franklin lived. It was who she was. The Motor City ran through her veins, like gospel through her voice. Unlike others who fled after success, she stayed, buying a mansion on Detroit's west side. "I am Detroit," she once confided. "When they hear me sing, they hear the city's pain, its pride, its power." When Eminem rose to fame in the late 90s, Aretha noticed another Detroit native keeping his roots, but something troubled her deeply. While Eminem acknowledged other Detroit artists, he never once mentioned the Queen of Soul. the woman who put their hometown on the musical map decades earlier. "It's like I'm invisible to him," she told her pianist in 2002. Like Detroit's musical history started with him. At a 2007 charity event, officials celebrated Detroit's musical pioneers without mentioning her name. Later, she confided, "They act like soul never happened. Like Detroit music jumped from Motown straight to hip-hop, but I was the bridge." At a private dinner, when someone praised Eminem, Aretha delivered a line that silenced the room. "That boy knows exactly who I am. He just decided I wasn't worth acknowledging." Rather than growing bitter, Aretha responded with action, establishing music programs and scholarships in Detroit schools. "Detroit gave me my voice," she whispered to her son in her final months, "and no one can take that connection from me." While being overlooked in her hometown cut deep, being directly challenged by another diva was something Aretha found truly unforgivable. Because the next battle wasn't just about recognition, it was about who truly deserved to wear the crown. Number 4. Patti LaBelle. New York City, 1974. The Apollo Theater's marquee lights up Harlem. Backstage, tension crackles as Aretha Franklin sits in her dressing room, hearing thunderous applause for Patti LaBelle's performance. When asked about Patti later, Aretha's response was ice cold. "She's a good singer, but not in my league." Patti fired back, "Aretha is insecure. There's room for more than one strong black woman in this business." The battle lines were drawn. By the 1980s, as Patti's solo career soared with hits like New Attitude, Aretha fumed to her pianist. "She copies my runs, my gowns. Now she's trying to take my audience. There's only one queen." The industry adapted. Award shows became chess matches with strategic seating arrangements. Festival lineups required military precision to keep them apart. Aretha even added contract clauses, refusing to perform at events where Patti appeared before her. In a never-published 2010 interview, Aretha unleashed, "I will never share a stage with Patti again. She's a copycat and backstabber who smiles to my face while trying to book my venues." The rivalry created an industry divide. You were either Team Aretha or Team Patti, no middle ground. One background vocalist admitted, "Working with both was career suicide. Aretha would blacklist you for singing with Patti." Even charity events weren't immune. Organizations learned to approach one diva or the other, never both. The 2014 White House Women of Soul event captured their frosty non-interaction on camera, going viral as Aretha walked past Patti without acknowledgement. The feud concealed a painful industry truth. "They want us fighting over scraps," Aretha confided to her sister, "but I've earned my place." The greatest loss? These vocal powerhouses never recorded together. No duets, no shared stages by choice, no reconciliation. When Aretha passed in 2018, Patti paid public respects, but decades of tension remained unresolved. Number 5. Dionne Warwick. For Aretha Franklin, funerals were sacred spaces demanding dignity, not drama. That's why February 18, 2012 wounded her deeply. At Whitney Houston's funeral, Dionne Warwick announced to millions watching, "Aretha Franklin, Whitney's godmother, is here today." She paused, looked around, then added, "Oh, she's not here." Those 4 words haunted Aretha for years. The truth? Severe leg swelling and doctor's orders prevented Aretha's travel. Whitney was like family to her. Aretha had mentored Whitney, watched her grow up, and celebrated her success. "That girl was family," Aretha told her sister. "Missing her funeral broke my heart. Then Dionne broke it again." This public slight changed Aretha. She became cautious about appearances, often requesting details about speakers and topics. "I won't be ambushed again," she told her manager in 2013. After 5 years of silence, Aretha finally erupted. "She knew I couldn't be there. She used Whitney's coffin as a stage to hurt me." This wasn't just any rivalry. These Newark powerhouses had circled each other for decades. Aretha's letter to the Associated Press was devastating. She blatantly lied. "She knew exactly why I wasn't there." In private recordings, Aretha's voice trembles. You don't use someone's final journey to settle old debts. After the letter, Aretha never spoke Dionne's name again. Some betrayals go beyond music. While Dionne's comments wounded Aretha personally, the rock world's dismissal of her entire musical legacy represented a different kind of disrespect, one that struck at the very heart of her artistic identity. And what Keith Richards said next would make the Dionne incident look like a minor skirmish. Number 6. Keith Richards. Rock stars borrowed heavily from soul music, while rarely giving credit. Aretha watched as white musicians took soul's essence and claimed it as their invention. It wasn't just about music, it was about respect. In 2007, Keith Richards told Rolling Stone, "Soul died with Otis Redding." Aretha's still around, but it's not the same. The Queen of Soul was livid. This wasn't just an opinion, it attacked her decades of keeping soul alive. Her public response was surgical. Some people confuse loud guitars with depth. Bless his heart. Privately, she erupted, "Who is Keith Richards to decide when soul died? I've been carrying this genre for 40 years while he's been falling out of palm trees." The pattern continued. Clapton called her old school. Jagger labelled her style museum music. Bowie suggested her relevance peaked in the 60s. What infuriated Aretha wasn't criticism, but hypocrisy. These rockers built careers, sampling the sound they now dismissed. "They take from us, then they erase us," she told her sister. "They want our flavour without our faces." She responded with action. After Richards' comment, she performed at 3 rock-dominated venues where soul artists rarely appeared. At Bonnaroo 2008, her performance was so powerful that 3 rock groups cancelled after-parties to watch her. At a benefit with The Who, she deliberately covered Jumpin' Jack Flash, a direct message to Richards. In 2011 recordings, Aretha addressed the racial undertones. They call it classic rock when white artists do it. They call it oldies when we do the exact same thing. When asked if her style was outdated, she delivered her legendary response, "Honey, I'm not a style. I'm the standard, and standards don't expire." The last word of the Queen of Soul. The $25,000 cash Aretha demanded at every show wasn't about money. Each stack of bills was a reminder to everyone backstage who held the power. That same woman who made Luther Vandross storm out of his own studio session, who made Patti LaBelle wait in the wings night after night, who covered Jumpin' Jack Flash just to answer Keith Richards. Every slight became fuel. Beyoncé's comment about Tina Turner turned into Aretha's most calculated public statement. Eminem's silence from their shared Detroit streets pushed her to claim the city harder. Dionne Warwick's "Oh, she's not here" at Whitney's funeral became the last betrayal Aretha would ever let slide. These weren't random reactions from a diva. This was survival. Each confrontation taught the industry a lesson they kept forgetting. Respect costs more than talent. It demands daily proof. Aretha understood something her rivals didn't. You can share a stage, but you can't share a throne. The woman who sang about respect spent 50 years teaching people what that word actually meant. Not through speeches or interviews, through contract clauses, through calculated silences, through showing up and making everyone else adjust. When the person who demanded respect finally grew too tired to fight, the industry found out just how much they had always needed her.